Hi everyone. Let's learn about the concept of domain of protection and about the concept of access matrix in this lecture. So previously we have learned about what is the meaning of protection and what is the meaning of protection mechanisms. We know that protection is nothing but a mechanism for controlling the access of programs, processes or users to the resources offered defined by a computer system. Okay, you will be having different programs or processes and you are going to have different resources. How we are going to control the access of the resources by the programs or processes. That is called as protection. So your protection mechanisms must also specify what controls are going to be imposed on the resources and how it is going to be imposed, what and how of controlling the access of resources. Okay, so that is the meaning of protection, which we saw in the previous lectures. So in today's lecture, we will learn about the concept of domain of protection. Now, what is the meaning of this domain of protection? Consider any computer system. This computer system is considered to be a collection of processes and objects. We know what is the meaning of a process. Process is nothing but a program in execution. And it is also consisting of objects. What is the meaning of objects? Objects are of two different types, namely hardware objects and software objects. So by hardware object can be anything. It can be your CPU, it can be your primary memory, that is your RAM, it can be your magnetic hard disk. Everything will come under the concept of hardware object. Your software object, it can be anything like a file or a semaphore or a database. Everything will come under software object. So your computer system is basically a collection of processes and objects, and every object will have a unique name for itself because we need to distinguish one object from another. So every object will have a unique name for itself. Also, this concept of object is just an abstract data type. So we need to have meaningful operations to access those objects. So every object will have meaningful operations with which it can be accessed. Another thing is what type of operations can be performed on the object actually depends on the object itself. Say for example, by object, what do I mean by object is, as I told you, a file can be an object, some resource like a printer can be an object. Everything will come under the category of object, but all objects will not have the same operations. Say for example, if you take a file, the set of operations allowed on a file is read operation, write operation, open operation, close operation, etc. Okay, if it is some other resource, like if it is a program, then you can do read operation, write operation, execute operation, delete operation, etc. So what type of operation you are going to perform on the object actually depends on the object itself. Okay, so next is before a process. So protection is all about controlling the access of resources by the processes, right? So before a process actually requests for resources, two things have to be taken care of. So what are those two things is, first thing is, first of all, the process should have proper authorization rights to access those resources. The process should have proper authorization rights, proper authorization to access that resource. That is the first thing to be taken care of. The second thing is, the process should only try to access those resources for which it currently requires to complete its task. I will repeat, the process should only request and try to access only those resources which it currently requires to complete its task. Now the second requirement I told you, that second requirement is called as the need to know principle. Need to know principle. Remember that whatever is being highlighted in bold here, they are all the keywords which you have to remember, which you have to write in the examination. So need to know principle is nothing but whenever a process requests for a resource, it must always request and try to access only those resources which it currently requires to complete its task. Okay, say for example, and that is called as the need to know principle. Say for example, let's say you have a process P1 and the process P1 is calling a procedure A. So then the procedure A should be able to access only the formal parameters and the local parameters for that particular procedure. It should not be able to access the variables of the process. Okay, if it is able to access, the basic concept behind the need to know principle is to limit the amount of damage which can be caused by a faulty process. Okay, in case if the process fails, then in case we have given too many number of resources to the process, and if the process fails, it's going to create too much of damage to the system. So we want to limit the amount of damage which can be caused to the system, and that's why we are limiting the amount of resources which we are allocating to processes. So that is the basic concept behind this need to know principle. Need to know principle is nothing but whenever a process requests for a resource, it should request and it should try to access only those resources which it currently requires to complete its task. Now, just try to correlate it with the principle of least privileges, which we learned in the previous lecture. So, principle of least privileges also says that every process should only be allocated just enough privileges to complete its task. So that is about privileges. Here we are talking about resource allocation. Okay, so basically both are similar. The concept behind both is similar. We want to limit the amount of damage which can be caused by a faulty process to the system. So that is the meaning of need to know principle. Next, we will learn about the domain structure. So please, I would request you to listen to it carefully, because we are going to learn a lot of keywords which I will be using throughout this lecture. So try to understand it carefully. So first one is protection domain. So what is the meaning of protection domain? So every process operates within a protection domain. What is the meaning of protection domain is every process operates within a protection domain. What is the meaning of protection domain? It is nothing but set of resources which a process may access. Set of resources which a process may access is called as the protection domain. Okay, so our first keyword is protection domain. Protection domain is nothing but set of resources which a process may access. Okay, so then we have a terminology called as, so I told you set of resources which a process may access is called protection domain, and each protection domain is defined by an ordered pair. That ordered pair usually consists of two things. One is the object name and the other one is the access rights set. Now what do I, just the terminology may look like very much something like strange or complicated for you, but actually concept wise it is a very, very simple concept. So domain is represented by an ordered pair which consists of two things. One is the object name and the other one is the access rights for that particular object. What is the meaning of object? By object I mean it can be anything like a file or a printer. Any such sort of things will be considered as, any such resources which exist in the system, it will be considered as object. And what is the meaning of rights set? Rights means what type of operation can be performed on that object. Whether read operation can be performed, write operation can be performed, execute operation on that particular object. All that will be mentioned in the rights set. Okay, the set of all the objects along with their access rights will be called as your protection domain. That's it. Okay, so here we have another terminology called as access rights. What is the meaning of access right? Is the ability to execute an operation on a particular object is called as access right. Access right is nothing but ability to execute an operation on a particular object is called as access right. See, in the, just refer to the diagram here. Based on whatever keywords I have told you now, we have three domains here, D1, D2 and D3. You can see that in the domain D1, we have three objects O1, O2 and O3. For the object O1, the access rights set consists of read and write operations. That means a process which is executing in domain D1 can perform read and write operations on the object O1, execute operation on the object O2, and read and write operation on the object O3. That is the meaning of it. Similarly, you have another domain here, okay, which consists of two object rights pairs. One is the object O2 with write operation and the other one is object O4 with the print operation, which means, what is the meaning of this diagram? It means that if a process is executing in domain D2, it means it can perform write operation on the object O2 and print operation on the object O4. Similarly, for this domain D3 also, if a process is executing in domain D3, it can perform execute operation on object O1, read operation on object O3, and print operation on object O4. Okay, so that is the meaning of domain. So from this, I'll just repeat what is the meaning of protection domain. Protection domain is nothing but every process operates within a protection domain, which is nothing but the resources which the process may access is called as protection domain. And what is the meaning of access right? The ability to execute a particular operation on an object is called as access right for that object. Okay, so here some things which you have to remember is the domains need not be disjoint. The domains can overlap. What is the meaning of that? See here, domain D2 and D3 are overlapping. Domains D2 and D3 are overlapping. What is the meaning of this is, you can see object O4 comma print is there in domain D2 as well as in domain D3. This means that a process which is executing in domain D2 can access object O4 and perform the print operation on object O4. Similarly, if a process is executing in domain D3 also, it can perform print operation on the object O4. It means both the set of processes in the domains D2 and D3 are sharing their access rights. That is the meaning of this. Okay. So from this, you can understand that domains can share their access rights. The next thing is, so this protection domain is all about processes and their resources, right? So this association between a process and its domain can be static or it can be dynamic. Now, what is the meaning of that? Static association means that if the set of resources which is allocated to the process is going to remain fixed throughout the lifetime of the process, then it's called as static association. If the set of resources which is going to be used by the process or accessed or requested by the process is going to change throughout the lifetime of the process, then it is called as dynamic association. Now just always remember the second one, dynamic association, because it's going to carry on through our next topics. So dynamic association is nothing but a set of resources which is accessed and used by the process is going to be changed throughout the lifetime of the process. That is called as dynamic association between a process and its domain. So dynamic association means that the process is going to use different resources at different points of its lifetime. That means resources are going to define the domains here, right? So that means the process is going to switch from one domain to another. The process is going to switch from one domain to another if the association is going to be a dynamic association. So far I have been telling you about domains. So protection domains means it is going to contain objects and their access right pairs, and it may contain any number of objects and access right pairs, all that we learned. But then what is going to constitute a domain? How are we going to realize the concept of a domain in our implementation? So actually there are three possible ways in which we can realize the concept of a domain in a computer system. So every user can be a domain. That is one way. The other way is every process can be a domain. And the third way is every procedure can be a domain. The first way is each user can be a domain. What is the meaning of this? This means that in case if every user is going to become a domain, that means whenever one user logs out and another user logs in, there is going to be a domain switch. And what is going to be the set of objects in the first case? In the first case, set of objects is dependent on the identity of the user. Similarly, in the second case, every process can be a domain. What is the meaning of that? In that case, whenever one process sends a message to another process, domain switching is going to occur. And what is going to be the set of objects in the second case? In the second case, set of objects which is going to be accessed by the process actually depends on the identity of the process. In the third case, every procedure may be a domain. So that means whenever one procedure calls another procedure, there is going to be a domain switch. And what is going to be the set of objects in the third case? In the third case, set of objects will be the local variables for the procedure will be the set of objects for the third case. So that is how those are all the different ways in which we can realize the meaning on the concept of a domain in a computer system. So as an example, if we consider the Unix operating system and how the domain of protection is established in the Unix operating system. So we saw that domains can be realized in three ways, right? Either every user can be a domain, or every process can be a domain, or every procedure can be a domain. So in Unix operating system, every user is a domain. A domain is associated with every user, okay? So when there is a shift from one user to another user, we say that there is a switch from one domain to another domain. So this domain switch is implemented in Unix operating system in 3 different ways. Domain switch can be accomplished by using the file system itself, or it can be accomplished, it is also accomplished via passwords, and the third way is it is accomplished via commands. Okay, first one is domain switch is accomplished via the file system. So here we know that for every file we have something called as the file owner identification. Every file will have a file identifier or the owner identification for the file. Along with the owner identification, we also have a domain bit, which is also called as the set UID bit for the file. Okay, so here how we are going to implement domain switch with this domain bit is, in case let's say you have user A is going to work with the file of which actually belongs to user B. Okay, if user A is going to work with a file for which user B is the file owner, then set UID bit will be set to 0. It will be off. Okay, user A is going to work with the file of some other user, then set UID bit will be off. And let's say if the particular user B only is going to work with this file, then the set UID bit will be on. Okay, so whenever a file is executed and the set UID bit is on, it means the file owner is actually working with the file. And whenever the file is executed and set UID bit is off, it means that somebody other than the file owner is working with the file in some other domain. So the domain switch is actually realized with the concept of by using file system concept here. The second way in which domain switch is actually accomplished is by using passwords in Unix operating system. We have the su command. With the su command, if we know the other domain's password, then it allows one user in one domain to temporarily switch to another user's domain. If the other domain's password is known to the user, he can switch to some other user's domain. That is another way. And the third way in which domain switching is accomplished in Unix operating system is by using the sudo command. With the help of sudo command, we can actually execute any specified command in some other user's domain. Okay, so these are the 3 ways in which domain switching is accomplished in the Unix operating system. That's all about the concept of domain of protection. Our next and most important concept is about the concept of access matrix. Okay, so what is the meaning of access matrix? So access matrix is nothing but a general model of protection. It's a general model of protection. Just now we learned what is the meaning of protection. Protection actually provides mechanisms to allow different programs or processes to access the resources of the computer system. So this access matrix is a general model of protection, which provides a mechanism for provides us a mechanism for protection without imposing any particular protection policy, without specifying any particular protection policy on the users or on the computer system. A general model of protection is being proposed, and that is called as access matrix. And another important design property of this access matrix is it helps us to separate mechanisms from policies. So already we learned what is the meaning of mechanism and policy. Policies generally specify what has to be done for protection, and mechanisms specify how it will be done, how it will be carried out. Okay, so the clear distinction between mechanisms and policies is being provided with our access matrix concept. So access matrix is nothing but it provides us a general model of protection. It gives the operating system a general model of protection with which users can implement their own policies of protection. So why it is called as access matrices? Here the protection is viewed abstractly like a matrix. Okay, the concept of protection is implemented abstractly like a matrix. That's why it's called as access matrix. So let's learn about how this access matrix will be represented in the computer system. So you can see in the screen, this is your access matrix. The access matrix resembles a matrix abstractly, and it consists of rows and columns. The rows represent the domains and the columns represent the objects. Okay, this is your access matrix. The rows represent the domains and the columns represent the objects. Already I told you object is nothing but every resource is an object. A file is an object, a laser printer might be an object, and any input output device can be an object. Okay, what is domain? Domain also I told you, domain is nothing but the set of resources which can be accessed by a process is called as domain, and domains consist of the objects as well as their access rights. Just now we saw in our domain of protection. So in the row of an access matrix, it is represented by using domains, and every column of the access matrix, it is represented by using objects. Objects are nothing but the resources. Okay, and what is going to be there in the entry of the access matrix? Each entry of the access matrix is going to specify the operations which can be carried out on that particular object in that particular domain. Okay, so suppose if I say access of I comma j is used to represent a particular entry in the access matrix, where I represents the row and j represents the column. Okay, so here you can see in the access matrix for D1 F1, I have read. What is the meaning of that? A process which is executing in domain D1 can perform read operation on the file F1. Okay. Similarly here, a process which is executing in domain D4 can perform both read and write operations on the file F1. That is the meaning of it. Similarly here, a process executing in domain D3 can perform only execute operation on the file F3. Similarly, if you want to print, if any process wants to access the printer, it has to be in domain D2 according to this access matrix, and then only it can perform the print operation. Okay, so that is how you represent the access matrix. So from this, just try to understand access matrix is nothing but it is represented abstractly like a matrix where the rows represent the domains and the columns represent the objects. Objects are nothing but your resources, and domains are nothing but the set of resources which can be accessed by a process is called as the domain. Now this is our basic representation of access matrix. I hope you are clear with this basic representation. Because we are going to have several variations of this basic representation, you should be clear in this one to understand all those additional representations. Let's move on to the additional representations. So as per our access matrix concept, if any process wants to do any operation, let's say a process is in, see this access matrix, if a process is in domain D2 and if it wants to perform read operation on the file F2, then it needs to have the read operation on that particular entry. Okay, for D2 comma F2 cell, see this D2 comma F2 cell, read operation has to be mentioned in the D2 comma F2 cell. If it is mentioned, then only that particular operation can be performed by the process in that particular domain D2. If it is not mentioned, then the read operation cannot be performed in that particular for the process for that particular object in that particular domain. Okay. And so access matrix, so from this is the basic representation of access matrix. Okay, we have seen what is going to be there in the access matrix, but then two important policy decisions have to be taken if we have to implement this access matrix. What are those two decisions? First one is what access rights have to be included in each entry of the access matrix. You can see here that who will decide these entries. Here I have, for the cell D1 comma F1, I have read operation. For the cell D2 comma printer, I have print operation. Now, who will decide this? Which cell has to be filled with which access right? So, deciding about which access right to include in every entry of the access matrix, that is one of the policy decision. Usually, this policy decision is taken by the users, the owners, the users or the owners of the resources or the files will decide what entry has to be filled in every column of every particular cell of the access matrix. The second design decision which has to be taken is which process will execute in which domain. Okay, that only determines whether the process will be able to access the resource or not, right? The domain of a particular process will decide what resources it will be able to access. So, who is going to decide this? Which process is going to execute in which domain? So that is another important policy decision. Usually this policy decision is usually made by the operating system. So that is about how to implement policy decisions. The next is about static and dynamic association between processes and domains. Already I told you what is the meaning of static and dynamic association. Static association means the set of resources which can be accessed by a process is fixed throughout its lifetime, means it's called static association. Dynamic association means the resources which can be accessed by a process is going to change dynamically throughout its lifetime, then it is called as dynamic association. And I also told you that if there is going to be a dynamic association, then the process is going to switch from one domain to another domain. Just try to understand, whenever there is a dynamic association between processes and domains, it means that the process is going to use different resources at different points of its lifetime. So in that case, the domain switch is said to occur. So whenever there is a domain switch, we just now saw the basic representation of our access matrix, right? So how to accommodate the domain switch? Whenever the process switches, here we are assuming static association. Here we are assuming that permanently the process is going to be fixed in these domains and it is going to perform and it is going to make use of these resources. But what about the case when the process switches from one domain to another? So then that is not accommodated in this basic representation of access matrix, right? So for that, the concept of access matrix, the representation of access matrix is being enhanced further. And we add one more access right called as the switch access right. Okay. So far we just saw only the read operation, write operation, execute operation will be entered in the cells of our access matrix. But then we can also enter something called as access rights in our access matrix. For that, our access matrix is going to be extended further to include domains also. Why we have to include domains? See this diagram. This is our basic representation of access matrix. Along with that, in the columns, we have added domains also. Okay, usually we had only the objects, that is the resources in the columns. But then here we have added the domains also in the columns. Why we have added domains? Because we need to represent a domain switch. Which process can switch from one domain to another? Which process cannot switch from one domain to another? That also should be represented in our access matrix. So to represent that, we have an access right called as switch access right. Okay, so with the help of the switch access right, we can represent whether a process can switch from one domain to another or not. So just to see in this representation of access matrix, so for the cell D1 and D2, we have D1 in the row and we have D2 in the column. There is a switch access right in the access matrix. This means that a process executing in domain D1 can switch to domain D2. That is the meaning of switch access right written in the access matrix here. Let's say if a process executing in domain D2, there is also a switch access right in D3, which means if a process is executing in domain D2, it can switch to domain D3 and it can make use of all the resources which is there in domain D3. That is the meaning of this representation. Okay, that is about how you can implement access matrix with domains also represented like objects, and that is the meaning of the switch operation. Switch access right means that a process can switch from one domain to another and make use of the resources in that particular domain. Now we saw how how a process can switch from one domain to another with the switch access right. And we also saw the static representation of access matrix. So when initially the OS may design and implement the access matrix, in that case, all the access rights may be mentioned in the access matrix. Let's say in future point of time, if the owner wants to may want to add some more access rights, or if the owner may want to delete some access rights, all this should also be possible. So some more access rights are also provided for mentioning in the access matrix. Okay. One is owner access right. Owner access right gives the right for the process to add or delete the access rights of a particular object. Similarly, you also have something called as copy access right, which is used to copy an access right from one row to another in the access matrix. Third is we have the control access right, which is used to remove some access right from any particular column. And we also have the transfer of an access right, wherein we can transfer the access right from one row to another row. So let's see about all of them in detail with the representation of our access matrix. So for for the switch access right, I told you it will be represented by switch in our access matrix. So, but for copy access right, we have an access right called copy. What is the meaning of this copy access right? Copy access right means that the ability to copy an access right from one domain, from one row of the access matrix to another row of the access matrix is called as copy access right, and that is denoted by an asterisk symbol in the access matrix. I repeat, the ability to copy and access right from one row of the access matrix to another row of the access matrix is denoted by the copy access right. So see, you can see here, and that is denoted by, it is not denoted by any symbolic name, it is just represented by the star symbol. Okay, read star means that a process which is executing in domain D2 can copy this read access right into any row for this particular object F2. For this particular object F2, this read access right can be copied into this particular row or this particular row. Okay, it can be copied into any other row for that particular object. That is the meaning of copy access right, and copy access right is just indicated by an asterisk symbol next to the access right. See here, this is the initial representation of access matrix, and with the since here we have a copy access right indicated by the asterisk symbol, this access right read has been copied to the next row here. It has been copied to the next domain D3. Okay, but one variation of this is the transfer access right. Transfer access right says that whenever an access right is copied from one row to another row, it will be just transferred. The access right will be there. From there on, it will be there only in the new row. It will not be there in the original row. That means if read access right is copied to domain D3, then it will not be available anymore in domain D2. That is called as propagation or transfer of access rights. So we saw how access rights can be copied from one row of the access matrix to another row of the access matrix. Similarly, it should also be possible for a process to add new access rights or delete access rights. And that is possible, that is made possible with the owner access rights. We have something called as owner access right. Okay, so if the owner access right is present in any particular entry of the access matrix, it means that process can add any entry or remove any entry from in that particular column. I'll tell you with the help of an example. You can see here that for the domain D2, there is owner access right for the file F2, and there is owner access right for the file F3. Similarly, in domain D1, there is owner access right for the file F1. Okay. See here, just consider this middle one. A process executing in domain D2 has owner access right for the file F2 and owner access right for the file F3. So that means, what does it mean? It means if it has owner access right, it can add any new access right or it can remove already existing access right. So with that facility, see in the next diagram, it has added one more access right called the write access right for the file F2. One more access right called the write access right is being added to the file F2 because a process executing in domain D2 had the owner access right, and with that it was able to add one more write access right to the file F2. So that is a representation of, that is the meaning of the owner access right in your access matrix. Similarly, if you want to remove any access rights in a particular domain, so far adding and deleting access rights with the owner access right we saw, but if you want to remove any existing access rights in a domain, then you have something called as the control access right. Okay, note that you may have a doubt like what is the difference between the owner access right and the control access right, because this is also going to remove the access right. The difference is that this is applicable only for domain objects. This is not applicable to the individual resource objects. This is applicable only for the domain objects of your access matrix. So we will see that with an example. See here. So this is our original representation of the access matrix. And then here you can see the control access right for the domain D2. For the domain D2, we have the control access right on the column D4. Okay, what does it mean? A process executing in domain D2 has the control access right on domain D4, which means it can remove any access right in domain D4. Okay, that is the meaning. So a process in D2 can remove any access right in domain D4. So with that, you see here, in domain D4, originally we had the read access right, okay, for the files F1 and F3. Now that is being removed by process. That is being removed by the process in the domain D2. Okay. Now we no longer have read in file F1 and we don't have read in file F3 here. It is because the process executing in domain D2 had the control access right and on the domain D4, and with that it removed some of the access rights for the files F1 and F3. It removed the read access right from the file F1 and from the file F3. So that is the meaning of control access right. Control access right is applicable only for domain objects. One domain can have the ability to remove any particular access right of any other domain. So finally, to conclude, from this you can understand that access matrix is helpful for us to separate the mechanisms from the policies. So operating system provides us with the access matrix and what are all the rules for the access matrix. And user will mention the policies. That is, user specifies what access is allowed for which object and what mode we can access that particular object. So clear separation is available with our access matrix implementation. But the problem in access matrix is it does not solve the general confinement problem. What is the meaning of this general confinement problem is that confinement problem says that whenever any information is present inside an object, it should not migrate outside its execution environment. That is the meaning of confinement problem. Confinement problem says that the information present in an object should not migrate outside its execution environment. Now with our copy and owner access right, we can limit the propagation of access rights. We can actually limit the propagation of access rights, but we cannot prevent the propagation of information. Totally, completely, we cannot prevent the propagation of information. To some extent, we can limit the propagation of information. So so this access matrix implementation does not help us to solve the confinement problem. And the confinement problem says that any information present inside an object should not migrate outside its execution environment. So that is all about the concept of access matrix and about the domain of protection.